We are here for the Personnel Committee meeting tonight on Tuesday, October 25th. Ms. Ivory, do you want to say anything before we jump in?
No, just thank you for hosting the meeting and look forward to the information you're going to share for this evening and the new business that will have to come. Thank you.
Fantastic. So we are, let's see here. There's a link to the agenda here. There are two, I really wanted to focus on hiring tonight. So I wanted to spend some time reviewing the 22-23 hiring season, sort of a look back, reflection, and then what we're taking from what we learned from this past hiring season forward. Provide an update on our hiring process, and then give a quick overview of the current state of our vacancies, and then wanted to give a brief update on induction. We'll of course we'll pause for discussion throughout and then can have conversation at the end. I'm not going to monitor the chat, so Mary, if you don't mind just keeping an eye on it, and then feel free to interrupt me if a question pops up.
Okay.
Fantastic, thank you. All right, so hiring update. So I wanted to start with this quote, I guess inspired a little bit by my fitness instructor side, but also Mo, who always starts with the quote. Someone said in the past couple of weeks to me, the past is our motivation, the future is our inspiration, and the present is our celebration. And I've been thinking about that a lot because we don't often pause to celebrate the things that have gone well, the things that we've learned, which then of course inspire us for the future. So I wanted to make sure we spent some time celebrating some of the wins we had from the 22-23 hiring season, which we kicked it off in last April, and ran through September, through the first day of school. So wanted to talk through a few wins. I think one of the first big celebrations is that we opened school on September 7th with 4 teacher vacancies. That is a big win. Yes, thank you. From my perspective, given the challenges that we know that folks are facing not only in Philadelphia, but across the country in terms of teacher shortages. It also lets me know that our focus on filling teacher vacancies with our new teacher hiring process worked. We were able to come very close to meeting our goal of kicking off the first day of school with no teacher vacancies, and a big improvement from last year. We hired 73 staff members, and the way we got that number is we considered anyone who was not a permanent employee in the prior school year, in the 21-22 school year, who accepted an offer for the 22-23 school year before 9/7. And you'll see a breakdown. Obviously, the biggest number of folks we hired were teachers. We hired 50, but you can see the breakdown of other roles here. So those are 2 big celebrations. We have a couple more, but before we get to those, I did want to pause to share some of the data about our incoming cohort. I think this is a breakdown of our incoming cohorts, those incoming 73 employees, looking at those folks broken down by race. Something that I think is interesting and important and in alignment with our goals to diversify our teacher staff. Just under 40% of our newly hired teachers identify as Black or multiracial. That is, from my perspective, a big win, and a continued area of opportunity of growth for us as an organization. I also wanted to share the profile broken down by gender. So you can see the breakdown here by role. I also wanted to share educational attainment. So this is for WPEA members only. So the majority of the folks that we hired were coming in with a master's degree. And also wanted to look at years of experience. Again, this is also WPEA only. Not quite a majority, but close of our teachers are within their, or not majority, I guess half of our teachers are 0 to 5 years, have 0 to 5 years of experience. A pretty, about a third, maybe a little bit less, are 6 to 10, and then slightly more are 11 or more years of experience.
So over 50% with over 6 years experience.
Yeah, yep. And then another celebration that I just wanted to highlight, oh, the still running date is, that was an oversight. You can disregard that. Another huge celebration is the ways in which our principals really stepped up as owners of the hiring process. So principals really were invested in finding the right candidates for the specific roles in their buildings. And I think that, and again, I think that there is a relationship between our principals serving as hiring managers and the increase that we saw in our teachers of color that we hired. And that is something that I am hopeful will continue as we continue to focus on that work and ensuring that our teachers represent the students that we serve in our organization. A few other celebrations were, we got a lot of positive feedback about improvements that we made in our onboarding process, as well as new colleague orientation. I included a few quotes here from the survey that we gave at the end of new colleague orientation. I'll give y'all a minute just to take a look. So I think something that really stood out to me is that folks left the orientation feeling valued. And I think a big part of that was getting to meet Dr. B. Coates personally. He shared a little bit about his leadership story, his vision for the district. They also got to meet cabinet members and other leaders across the organization. And it's clear that that was meaningful for folks. So that's something we'll definitely continue as we move forward. So with celebrations come learnings and opportunities. So here are some of the challenges that we faced and things that we're looking to improve as we look ahead to our next hiring season. So the first is we had our project manager, whose main focus was onboarding, departed in mid-August. So that left us with some challenges. The team, really huge shout out to Marina and Kathy, my amazing team members who really, we worked together hand in hand to ensure that we got all of those 70 plus employees onboarded. And we are in the midst of interviews for the HR operations manager now. We've shifted the title and the focus a little bit of that role. If anyone knows any strong candidates, please encourage them to apply. While we were able to make some significant gains with teacher vacancies, filling teacher vacancies, we have had some challenges with filling our support staff vacancies, specifically instructional assistants, secretaries, and staff nurses. So that's an area that we want to focus on. Currently, of course, like right now, we're focused on filling those vacancies, but then it's something that we can work to plan for the next hiring season. We want to continue to focus on finding teachers who are certified so that we have to issue less emergency permits. And then we do believe we have an opportunity. We have employees who reclassify into new roles. So for example, instructional assistants who get their teaching cert and move into a teacher role. We've had a few secretaries transition from school buildings to central office roles, or having teachers I guess it's not a reclass, they would be reassigned as administrators. But we have an opportunity to I would say flesh out our process for supporting folks through that transition and really meeting their needs. So something that Marina has been working on is perhaps we give them the option of coming in for a formal onboarding appointment where we walk them through, like we would with a new hire, the steps, or we can connect them via email to the folks in the payroll office or with Kathy regarding benefits, so they can connect with them directly just to try to better meet the needs of the employees. So our next steps are to, as I already shared, hire an HR operations manager. The focus will really be on onboarding, offboarding, and customer service. We are considering hiring part-time recruitment support during the hiring season. It is just a lot to manage all of the postings, the external postings in particular, to cultivate candidates to have them apply to our roles. So that is something that we think some part-time support could help us with, candidate cultivation from external sites like Indeed. And that would increase our capacity so that we could focus not only on cultivating teacher candidates to create a robust and diverse pool, but do the same for our support staff vacancies. And then we want to begin building hiring processes and resources for other staff groups. So take the time and attention that we focus on revamping our teacher hiring process and do the same for support staff and or administrators. So those are our next steps. Before I go into my next update about our hiring process review, I'll pause and see if anyone has any questions.
Katie, I do. Going back to looking at the chart for your incoming cohort, of
Sure.
course, the majority of them are female teachers.
Mhm.
Is there any thought into partnering with any universities that are local or hosting maybe a job fair that could, I guess, go after those few male teachers that might be available for teaching, just to kind of, entice them to come work in our district?
I'm jotting that down. So recruitment efforts focused on male educators.
And
Something we can definitely look into.
okay, and then for the profile, when we look at the cultural chart, are we also looking at some of the programs? When I look at the Asian and multiracial, I see we're doing great with the Black and African American population, but with the Asian and multiracial, could we do something similar that we're doing to seek for male instructors as well? I don't know if it would be hosting a job fair just to bring knowledge that we are looking to diversify our teacher population.
Great feedback. Definitely something we can consider. And I definitely think I had a good conversation with Swarthmore. This was a while back, but they're interested in partnering with districts they want to ensure that their aspiring teachers of color are placed with mentor teachers of color to support their development and their student teaching. So that what you're saying is just making me think about that and the opportunity that we have to support potentially incoming teachers with mentorship and support through their student teaching time. But yeah, definitely things that we can consider for sure.
Okay. And then the final thing was, I think it's great. I love seeing the comments from the onboarding process. Is there any way that we could collaborate with the cabinet to kind of continue that communication, to where this is your onboarding process for those that are receiving mentors, that there be a similar process? And I know that's not HR directed, but if we could collaborate with another department to make sure we continue to receive this type of feedback and we retain the employees.
Got it. So let me make sure that I understand what you're asking, which is just to make sure that we continue our focus on improving our onboarding and new colleague orientation process, and that we're sharing the feedback that we receive.
Right. So by collaborating, so HR collaborating with the department that deals with the mentor program, or the whatever the term is for the non-tenure teachers, kind of collaborate just to share that this is what you've done for HR. This is maybe a practice you can incorporate into your practice if it doesn't already occur.
Got it. Yep. So we can support. That is something we hope to do too, and that our new operations manager would really take the lead on, is building out what a school level onboarding look like.
Right.
Yep, absolutely.
Great.
And develop some strong resources. Yep, we can absolutely do that.
Thank you.
Sure thing. Any other questions or feedback?
This is great. Kudos to you and your team. This was great that you guys were able to accomplish this in a state of emergency, almost with teachers leaving
Yes,
districts.
yes,
So
thank you.
you,
Teamwork makes the dream work,
thank
so
you all. Yes.
couldn't have done it without my team and with the support of the other offices across the district, and of course, our principals and hiring managers.
Right.
I did just want to take a minute to review the professional employee hiring process. And this slide you've seen before at a previous personnel committee meeting. So essentially, we revamped our professional employee hiring process. The big updates were that hiring managers received Google folders with resources that support them with the hiring process for each vacancy. HR screened candidates for eligibility to help build robust pools of eligible candidates for each position. And that we did, rather than having 2 panel interviews, we did 1 phone interview followed by 1 panel interview. And I can actually pull this up as a refresher of the process. I already highlighted sort of the big changes, which are this eligibility screening portion, the phone interview followed by the panel interview. And then of course, reference checks and recommendation to hire. I did want to add that our guidance to principals is that really principals and hiring managers, because we have hiring managers across the district who are not school leaders, that if they interview a candidate, whether it's in a phone interview or an in-person interview, and that candidate does not move forward, we ask them to follow up with the candidate directly. And we strongly recommend, if that candidate is an internal candidate, that you have either a face-to-face conversation or a phone conversation to notify them that they're not moving forward and to offer feedback. And then during the hiring season, I couldn't remember the exact date, but at some point during the hiring season, I want to say like May, June, we were able to turn on notifications in Talent Ed so that when an offer was accepted for a position, all candidates who had applied for the position were notified that we were no longer, that they weren't moving forward, and we remain interested in your candidacy. Please continue to check our website and job postings. Yeah, Jen.
Katie, I wonder if we couldn't do something for alumni.
Okay.
I mean, barring any crisis, alumni are interviewed. We've had deep conversations about welcoming back alumni. And I know in one case, an alumnus was not even contacted. And this was an award-winning alumnus, and Asian. So I don't understand it. But I think that we should always extend something, again, less disastrous to alumni. We lost a good one to Southeast Elko, and I'm surprised. Like, I am surprised she wasn't brought in for an interview. So I just think alumni should be given a similar courtesy to internals, right? Because we really want that. We really want our alumni coming back and teaching with us.
Yeah, I think the difference is, so we don't guarantee internals an interview. They are just guaranteed to receive feedback if they do interview.
Right.
So it's definitely something for to consider. I think we could certainly add a question to our application, like, are you an alum of WPSD?
I mean, it's obvious on the resume.
Right.
I mean, we could add it and that would sort of filter them, but I was pretty shocked.
The thing I worry about is not worry about. Let me think about it and get back to you on that.
Great. Awesome.
Yeah. Thank you for that feedback. That's helpful.
And I had one question.
Sure.
When you say for the feedback that you strongly recommend, is it possible to make it a requirement just to ensure that it's consistent across the district and it's not left to one individual's personal feeling, if it could be a requirement to give feedback. That way it uplifts our staff, because if they don't receive the feedback, they may never apply for a position, even though they may have been qualified, they may have just missed something. So I think that's imperative to give that, especially internal, so they can work towards, getting to where they need to. So the next position that becomes available, they'll apply.
I'm comfortable with that. I'm comfortable with saying it's a requirement to offer feedback. If a candidate doesn't want it, I don't want the interviewer to have to like be forced to share it. But
Right.
in my experience, most candidates are open to receiving the feedback. So yeah, I'm comfortable with that.
And another thing, when I look at the process, and this has been a challenge, if this is the document that the administrators are using, there's nowhere where it says school board participation. So for the positions that school board directors are asked to participate in, the challenge is we're getting last minute notice. And when I say last minute, a week before, and we aren't employees of the district. Some of us are still working. Some of us are retired, but you have other obligations. Is there any way to add this in? Because that way it's consistent because some administrators send the emails 2 weeks in advance, some send it the week in advance. And depending on what day of the week we receive it, on a Thursday, and you're asking us to be available on a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, that could be a challenge.
Uh-huh.
But just that courtesy to having it be consistent notice. I know before it was the 2 weeks notice that we will receive it, but I'm noticing it's not consistent across the board.
Yeah, so the reason you don't see that reflected here is because this is just for the professional hiring process, and board members are typically involved in the administrator hiring process. When we revamp the administrator hiring process, we can certainly add that in.
Okay.
And I would be more than happy to send out a notification to hiring managers. I'd be happy to work with you to say what's a reasonable lead time, and then send out notification now to start to implement that. And then we can also embed it when we, so what would your request be?
As we stated before, 2 weeks notice, so that way it's time to filter through the board members that are available. We had a system where we had specific board members, but scheduling becomes an issue. And then we have our third board member that says, okay, if the other two aren't available, I'm here, but still giving the courtesy that the person can arrive, because we're not employees of the district.
Got it. Yep, we can absolutely do that. I will discuss with Dr. Bcote, and I have a check-in on Friday, and then I'll get back to you early next week.
All right, great. And then I noticed one more this document is for professional employees, so teachers.
Yes.
And on where you have the panel interview, should it be specific to include, because I know we had talked about having parents or students on that panel as well? Where it says recommended size 3 to 6 interviewers, should it be specific to say maybe one parent, one student? That way that's consistent also. So that way, because we said we added that in so parents would have a voice in who we hire. But if it's not written, someone may not choose to include that.
I don't disagree. And I'd be comfortable adding my concern is when we are working to hire teachers quickly before the start of the school year. If it's over the summer and they're not able to get a parent, like it can really slow the hiring process. My recommendation would say like best practice is to include members from the following groups, but I would hate for a principal to have a student rep not have a parent, but then not be able to make a hire and then lose the candidate in August. So we could certainly say like, consider the following folks to be part of your panel.
I sort of feel like that about that best practice part, like the note I got from you today, Wadea, about special ed. Like we're just trying to replace someone quickly because that special ed director is leaving quickly. Right, so it's sort of like this, balance that hopefully we don't have to be in forever. But I do think that I would be interested to know how many interviews at our principals included parents, right? Included other teachers. Right? Like I'm also not against paying a teacher for her time to sit in on interviews during the summer since they're supposed to be on break. Just so we're making sure that all voices are present because it's been a Achilles heel in the past.
I agree.
Let me take that back to my team, talk about it a little bit, and then get back to folks at our next meeting, if that's okay.
That's fine. Yeah, that way it's the same thing as Jennifer. I agree. That way it's spelled out. So if one's not available, there's someone else that's available to provide additional feedback for that process. And I think the more it's spelled out, the less it's left to anyone saying, well, you didn't offer or extend the opportunity to, to anyone from the school.
Yep.
You can just extend it if it doesn't happen.
Right.
But I don't want anyone to get quick and in a bad habit about not including.
I like that. I like that idea around like the expectation is you extend it to folks, but if they're not available, we're not gonna hold you up. But that, I like that.
And it also doesn't have to be students in that school. Like if we at one time like sort of had a future teachers program where we hired our students for the summer extended school year programs. Maybe we could make as a part of their job to sit up on interviews. That's good career coaching for them. And we're sure that, we have someone interested in being a teacher in the room. So that's, just coaching up.
Awesome. Thank you. All right, I'm gonna toggle back to the presentation. There we go. So in the interim, we're going to, because we haven't yet had a chance to revamp our administrator, our support staff hiring process, we'll continue to use the ones that we have been using. I linked them if folks want to review them. I wasn't planning to pull them up here today, but as I said earlier, we are planning to work on revamping those hiring processes.
I'm assuming that will come through personnel when you do make changes.
Yeah, just like we did with the teacher one.
Great.
Exactly.
I download them to look at later.
Okay. Yeah, and these aren't new. These are the ones that you've seen. These are the old docs. Yeah. So vacancies, just to want to do a quick review of where we are with our vacancies. I'll give you a minute to take a look. These are the vacancies that we currently have in our admin building at Alden, Ardmore, Bell, and Colwyn.
That
Sorry.
can you go back? I'm
Yeah.
sorry. The 1026 to 118, is that when the person is needed?
Yes.
And do we have, so we don't have that person?
Not yet.
Okay. So have we considered, for instance, the operations supervisor business office? Have we considered looking other places besides Indeed and PA REAP, calling construction management programs locally? I mean, that's a really, really important position for us. If we go into these projects, there's no way Jeff can do all that work. And it's funded. Have we looked in different places? I know it's been open for a couple of months.
I do know that we have cultivated some candidates, and Jeff is planning to conduct interviews when he's out for just a little bit. When he comes back,
right.
He'll be conducting interviews. If those interviews don't yield strong candidates, then that's definitely something we can consider.
Yeah, I would also consider that for your web developer and content strategist. Temple has an amazing communications program. I just don't think PA REAP and Indeed, I mean, I use Indeed for clients and it's not so great. But just for like those specialty non-teacher and IAs, I mean, just on this first page, we're missing 8 IAs.
Yeah,
Are we looking, because those folks only need 2 years of college?
correct. Or a certain number of credit hours and passing an exam, a skills exam.
Right. So are we looking at DCCC and connecting? And look, I know you're short staffed, so
Yeah,
I'm being a little pie in the sky, but are we connecting with our local community colleges in the, 5-county area to talk if they have any, pre-K, any people in their pre-K programs that would, qualify for these jobs? Because
all
those
great
things are
ideas.
really important.
Yeah, all great ideas. We have not, our ability to engage in active recruitment has been challenged because of our vacancy in our office. So I have interviews for that position later this week. So my hope is that we can get that position filled so that Marina can go back to spending some more time on active recruitment.
Or maybe we need a part-timer before April,
Right.
Because maybe there's some pre-work and maybe, it's 10 hours a week or something, but
Yeah, finding temp support has also been challenging. We've had 2 swings and misses in our office, and it's hard. Like it's all the coordinating to get them to come in, the onboarding that's been a challenge. But
Yeah.
I hear you. We agree with you in terms of that needing to be a priority for sure.
Mm.
So here's where we are with East Lansdowne, Evans Park Lane, Penwood 9th, GAC, and the middle school.
I thought that East Lansdowne 6th grade teacher was coming.
We thought so too. She rescinded, so that actually needed to be updated. That will need to be updated on the board agenda.
So is that long-term sub still in there? Who's in there?
I believe, I'm not sure who's in there day to day. I'd have to follow up with Nakia. But that teacher did rescind, so we are
Can
back
you let me know who's in that classroom? Because I have a number of community members, kids in that classroom. So we're missing 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 IAs.
Yep, although I will say we've extended 3 offers since Friday of last week when I developed this presentation. So we're making some progress. But yes, it's a big challenge.
And is that in our contract with the IAs, do we have the ability to get subs for IAs?
I'm not sure, I'd have to check, but there are no subs. Like we are contracting out some of the work,
Right.
but it's not like STS doesn't like have IA subs available for those positions. Like they just don't exist. But we are contracting for some of the roles.
Okay.
And that's being managed by the SPED office. Yeah.
The IAs are managed by the SPED office?
They're supporting with a lot of the IA contractors. Yes.
Is that because the IAs are?
Many of them support special ed students. Most of them support special ed students. Yeah.
And I also feel the same way about the occupational therapist.
Yes.
No occupational therapist is going to be reading PA REAP. Or,
Right.
And another question, what is our policy on, like, if we use like Austell's rehab, right, which was in our update a little bit ago for an OT, and we really like that OT, and they say, all right, for, $5,000, they're your OT. Like, what is our policy on that sort of thing?
My understanding, and so we've actually ran into that situation. We had 2 contractors who applied for, and we applied for the IA position and we wanted to move forward with them. We worked with the agency to determine what the buyout would be. We proposed to the business office for how we would pay for it. Essentially, the bulk of the cost would be paid by the unfilled vacancy, and then any remaining costs be split between HR and SPED. So we've moved forward with 2 of the hires that we've made for IAs in the last couple of days have been folks who converted from an agency to district employee. So it's really just exactly that. Putting a proposal in front of the budget office or business office, sorry, to make sure that it makes sense with the budget.
I'm sorry. I think going forward, that's also going to be a good avenue for the more, the non-teacher professionals, OTs, speech therapists.
Yeah.
you
Yep.
know, just because they're hard to find, and
Yep.
and we're very specific in our needs
Yep.
for that.
Totally agree. And it's great if it's almost like a trial run. Of course, it's ideal if there's not a huge cost to buy them out. And sometimes if the employee is open to it, we can have them fulfill every agency is different, but for some of them, it's like once they've worked 300 hours, then they can transfer over without a fee. So in some cases, if the employee is fine with it, great, we'll have you fulfill your contract and then transfer over to work for us.
Yeah, but just, when you go to that business office, remind them with those special ed positions, if we're not compliant with IEPs, it's a pay now or pay later.
Right.
And it is a significant amount of money. So if one OT means we're out of compliance for 40 young people, like that has the potential to be an absolute disaster.
Yeah, 100%, totally agree. And so far, in my experience with these few IAs, we have not received push, we haven't got, the business office was like, yep, this makes sense.
They're lower dollar, so
That is true.
prepare for the big ones.
That is true. All right. I did want to provide a quick update on induction. I'm sure y'all are familiar with it, but just at a super high level, it's a year-long program that supports mentorship, collaborative learning, and professional development to support new teachers. It's open to folks who have an instructional 1, emergency or intern cert. And you do have to complete induction in order to be able to convert your level 1 cert to a level 2 cert. This year, we have 40 teachers and educational specialists who've enrolled in our induction program. So they've completed and they've been assigned mentors. So slightly under 40 of our teachers are serving as mentors for our folks completing induction. And our second session is tomorrow. They're going to be getting some training on eSchool and entering grades and equitable grading practices. One cool thing that I was able to do at our first session was folks broke into small groups and they got to review each of the upcoming sessions across the course of the year and offer suggestions, feedback, and questions they have about the content. So then when presenters are planning for and facilitating their sessions, they have the input from the participants about what they want and need, which I think is really valuable. Another thing we focused on is feedback we got last year is that the sessions were really geared towards classroom teachers, but we did have a lot of educational specialists like nurses, counselors, et cetera, participating. So we're really working to ensure that the content is designed for the different roles of folks that are participating and that they're getting meaningful experience that will support their work. We also pivoted last year, the sessions were all virtual, and this year, most of them are in person. We have a few virtual, and mentors are attending the majority of the sessions alongside their inductee participants so that they can work side by side. And the goal is for example, tomorrow, they'll have a chance to practice entering grades or sit with their mentor to look at how they're grading for, whatever standard that they're working on and get some feedback on that. So I think that will help to make our induction program even more impactful for our folks.
That's awesome.
Yeah, thank you. I'm excited about it. It's, I'm glad we're able to implement the feedback. And I give a survey after every session, so we get feedback as we go, but Yeah, last year we had a pretty sizable cohort of counselors. This year we have quite a few nurses participating. So excited to be able to differentiate for them. So I'll pause here to see if there are any other questions, concerns, feedback. Hi, Miss Val, I saw you pop in.
Hi, it's good to be able to pop in.
Hey, Katie, I have a question.
Sure.
I like doing advocacy work. Is there any legislation or anything that would help the hiring process? For instance, the change of certificate from K-4 to K-6, like anything on the top of your head that you think would really help us in hiring? And
That's
you
a
can think about it.
Yeah, that's a really good question. It's not something I have thought a lot about, but I will, and I will get back to you.
All right, and I don't know if you also saw the county information. I sent it to Dr. B. Coates last night. The county had a meeting, so I'm gonna forward you that after this meeting.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, he may have sent it. I don't think I had a chance to read it yet.
Yeah,
Um,
I'll just, move it to the top, but it
Okay.
is, there was just stuff on hiring, like there is now money to hire pre-K. The county seems to be working on that, but I know that the county has a lot of COVID money, and I'm interested in how they can help us with our hiring from that level.
Yeah, absolutely. I will think about that, talk to my team and get back to you.
Great.
One thing, Jen, when you're talking about advocacy, one of the things that I know as a teacher is a challenge is the cost that comes associated with applying, with taking the exam or putting the application in for your certification.
How much is,
So when you're transitioning from your instructional 1 to your instructional 2, I believe it's $185 or $200. So there's a cost when you have to transition from instructional 1 to instructional 2. If you're changing your certificate, if you're applying for another certification, there's a cost associated with that. If you're taking the praxis for another area, there's a cost for the exam for that. So funding that's allocated where it doesn't have to come out of the individual teacher's pocket would
yeah,
might
no, that's
incentivize people to
awesome.
say, hey, I want to go, you're going to pay for me to take my exam, because it can deter you, especially if you fail the exam, you have to pay for it the second time.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I'm also gonna send you the county document, because that is something probably pretty easy. We could get the county to fund. So that's really actionable, and I really appreciate that.
No problem.
I'm also thinking about like ways to make it easier or reduce cost barriers for instructional assistants who want to become teachers.
Well, yeah, that would be great. And also our foreign not born here employees that
Mhm.
have to get that $500 TB test.
Mhm.
Like, that's just unobtainable.
Yeah, covering the cost for clearances could be a big support for, particularly for support staff. All right, we'll make a list.
Yeah, no, let's, and I'm super happy, because Monica Taylor, the head of county council, was a school board director, so it'll be super understandable to her very quickly.
Great. Well, I will
Ed-
definitely follow up on that. I have notes. I took a lot of notes with the feedback, with the next steps. I will make sure to address everything that was discussed. If not in this Friday, I think we have a board update this Friday. If not this Friday, then in the subsequent, I'll do all of my next steps. And then y'all let me know. I don't think we have, I think we had an attendee, but I don't see them anymore.
It
So
was Ms. Brown.
Ms.
She's
Brown.
joined us
Oh.
as a panelist.
Hi, Miss Brown.
But
Um,
one other thing I wanted to follow up with,
sure.
Katie, I am
Evening.
not sure which board member brought it up, but some time ago, we talked about providing support for our current staff when it comes to, I believe it was the paraprofessionals, when it comes to applying for college, providing a resource from HR that supports them if they do want to go back to school, maybe helping them through that process. That also might encourage some to, because it could be, I guess, intimidating for some folks that haven't filled out an application in 30 years, you know, especially if it's online versus filling it out by paper.
Yeah.
I also wonder if, you know, our IAs have an education benefit and all too often don't use it.
Right.
And I wonder if the IAs that we love, that we, you know, because that's right, if they have 2 years worth of credits, they're almost halfway there. I think that helping them with that financial would be great. And like I talk to IAs and I'm like, oh, you're gonna go back to school, either, you know, there's money for it, and they just don't know.
Right. And that's
Like,
why I say the process. That's the
Yeah.
process. You know, a professional development day could be dedicated to people that are interested in returning back to school. That could be a professional development that's offered.
Right.
And that could be in-house, doesn't cost any additional money, but just, you know, kind of an information session to get those people that do have an interest, but because no one's ever, you know, spoken to them about it, they aren't, you know, willing to kind of take the independent push to apply. Because the goal is to retain all of our employees and to kind of elevate each one of them. So providing them with that support could only encourage them to, you know, even if we get 2 the first time, they could pass it on, you know, pass that information on to the next person that might not be willing to apply on their own.
Definitely something we can look into. I would say that's not like, it's something we can learn. It's not like an area of expertise in anyone of my team but however, we could, I see that as something that is attainable in the future.
Right. Yeah.
And I also think something that is attainable in the near future is we intend to, one of the responsibilities of the new operations manager will be to operationalize our vision for more robust HR customer service. So one of the things that we've talked about but have not been able to get off the ground yet is doing things like regular weekly office hours by employee group. So where employees just know, like, okay, IAs know that on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 7:30 to 8 or whatever, you know, there's different time windows to meet their needs. They can log on to chat with someone in HR virtually or come in person to the office, and we can tailor support to them.
That would be awesome. That is
Yeah, that's
fantastic
the
idea.
goal, because we know that people, one of the challenges we have, because we're a small team, we could pay someone full-time to answer the phone and like respond to questions when people come in person. Unfortunately, we don't have the budget for that. So we all do it. But the real lead will be the operations manager. So I would love to move forward with that type of, and of course, we'll still take phone calls and stuff as they come in, but we'll be able to dedicate that time to people by role. So that's one of the things we hope to do. And then, of course, I hope to hire someone who has other great ideas for how we can improve our customer service. And because it's something we really want to do and be more strategic about. And we can do things like have monthly lunch and learns where one of the topics could be furthering your education or things like that. So that's definitely, to me, that's like really near term attainable. So on our radar for sure. And then we'll be able to leverage our new website to help us communicate about it and share more resources with our employees too. And I know that's something that actually our teachers union suggested last time we connected with them, was like, how could we collaborate on, because they shared the same thing. Like a lot of our teachers don't know about things like our tuition reimbursement or how to apply for a salary track change. Can we work together to make, 5-minute Vimeo or Zoom trainings and then offer joint Q&A sessions. So
Is that the job of the union to educate them though? Like,
I think it's both.
yeah, I also want to sit on our union a little bit to, more educate. Like they're getting lots of dues, right?
Yeah.
Like just like help your fellow people out. There's money at stake here. Not everyone, they could be doing lunch and learns too.
Yeah, that's true.
And I'm not, definitely not trying to be harsh, but oftentimes, like last night, I'm sitting there going, I wonder why the union didn't help him out with this. So, I want them to be more efficient too. All
Yeah.
boats.
I would agree with that. And we're better and stronger together. So how can we like divide and conquer and support each other so we're not doing double work or working against each other? So definitely on the list, and something that seems like a good area of opportunity for us to collaborate around. All right, so this was good. I feel like I got a lot of really good feedback, a lot of good questions for me to reflect and my team to reflect on. So I really appreciate y'all being here and being so thoughtful. And like I said, I'll be sure to follow up.
Great. And we appreciate you too.
Thank you.
All right. Have a good rest of your evening, and I will talk to y'all later.
All
Good
right.
night. Thank you.
Bye.
Peace.